After the accidental kiss between the two, and after telling the way to cancel it, Gia runs away from there. Upset, shocked, and embarrassed by what happened, Gia sits in the smoking area, where she was wondering what has happened to her. She had never expected this to happen. More than the kissing incident, Gia is bothered by the fact that the method she have told him to cancel it was very childish, and she was feeling very embarrassed thinking about it. Because in their childhood days, they used to follow the 3-second rule. Thinking about all these things, Gia smokes many cigarettes. She is also worried about how will she face Jin now. Then after a while, Jin comes there, and smelling the cigarette smoke, he asks, "Gia, have you smoked cigarette?" She doesn't respond and continues staring at him like a statue. He understands Gia's reaction and tells her, "Even if you have smoked, it is okay. At least air your clothes out of smoke." She stands like a statue while Jin puts his hands on her shoulders and starts pushing her towards the exit. After a while, Gia turns her face back and asks Jin, "Are you okay with our kiss?" Jin replies with great innocence, "You canceled it in 3 seconds, so it never happened." Gia tries to ask something again, but Jin interrupts her and says, "Would you like to have lunch or just go home?" Gia makes a face and replies, "Do whatever you like," and then they stop at a restaurant on the way to have lunch. Both of them order their favorite food, and after some time the food arrives on their table. Gia is still thinking about all those things. On the other hand, Jin starts eating his food very comfortably. Seeing him, she starts wondering what kind of a person he is. So much has happened between them, and he is still behaving as if nothing has happened. While Jin was eating his food, which was chicken breast with cold water as usual, Gia kept staring at him. Seeing Gia like this, he asked her, "Do you want to say something?" Gia changes the topic and says nothing special. "I was just thinking, you are eating chicken breast here too." After lunch, the two head back to their apartment. Walking down the street, Gia is still thinking about all those things, while Jin, on the other hand, is leisurely walking towards home using his phone. Gia turns around to look at Jin, who is casually working on his phone, and thinks maybe she's the one who's overthinking all of this, because whatever happened between them happened unknowingly. Gia tries to free herself from this dilemma and thinks that she is now 32 years old, and even if their lips touch each other, so what? They are a married couple. When Gia was thinking about all these things and trying to come out of the situation, then suddenly Jin says, "Hey Gia, I can't take this anymore. I have to get this off my chest." Gia looks at him in surprise while Jin continues to speak that it was more than 3 seconds since our lips touched. To be precise, I remember it was 5 seconds. Hearing this, Gia starts sweating and her heart starts beating faster. Jin smiles and says, "Why don't we make this our first kiss? We were already making fake stories about our first kiss in the morning. Wouldn't that be perfect?" Jin continues speaking and Gia keeps smiling listening to him. And then suddenly there is a loud slap sound. The scene now shifts to Jin's apartment, where he is sitting shirtless and the slap mark is on his back, which looks like an old Picasso painting. Seeing this scene, it was clearly visible that Jin had been slapped on the back, and the hands that did the slapping belonged to none other than Gia. Troubled by the situation, Jin questions himself as to what he has done wrong. On the other hand, Gia runs away from the situation and goes to her sister Jimin's house to live with her. Both Jimin and her husband Jinu are surprised to see Gia suddenly at their home like this. Before they could ask her anything, Gia herself smiled and said that she has come to stay with them for a few days. Hearing this, both of them, despite not wanting to, laugh a little at her words to keep her happy. But Gia did not come to their home just like that. Before coming to them, she had asked many questions to herself. Actually, this time she had a very long conversation with herself, or in Sipma word, it can be said that she had a conference with her younger versions. At the beginning of this conference, she tells all his participants, who were her younger versions, why this meeting was called. Present day, Gia tells them the whole story about what happened to her today, how a kiss accidentally happened between her and Jin. And before ending her statement, she says that whatever happened was a mistake and asks them, do they understand her? She makes it clear again in front of everyone that it was unintentional. All the available past Gia agree with the statement of present Gia and give their approval to her. Suddenly, Gia remembers something. She says, please note one more thing I want to tell you guys, that after the kiss, Jin made a proposal to me that why don't we make this kiss our first kiss? And after saying this, she starts banging the table loudly in anger. She further says that you people saw what a foolish person he is. Even in such a situation, he was talking nonsense. Present Gia again asks for their consent on this. Do you guys agree that he is a stupid man? This time, too, everyone gives their consent by making faces. And then suddenly, 5-year-old Gia, the youngest member of the group, nicknamed the Smooching Ghost, asks current Gia whether a kiss a good thing, and then everyone present there starts answering the youngest Gia's question. After discussing it for some time, the present-day Gia again interrupts everyone and starts speaking with a fake smile about the issue that she wants to spend some time away from Jin. She can't go to her parents as their house is too far away. That's why the only option she has is her sister Jimin's house. So she asks them about it. Before anyone can answer, 15-year-old Gia raises her hand and asks present-day Gia a question. Doesn't present-day Gia have any friends she can stay with for a while? She further said that if she looks carefully, she will definitely find a close friend with whom she can stay, and then she will not have to go to her sister's house. Present-day Gia puts her hand on her forehead and says, I can tell you, but you will not be able to understand current me. There's a lot that's happened. And then teasing 25-year-old Gia, she says, isn't that right? Because according to today's Gia, 25-year-old Gia was the main culprit of her entire situation. And then leaving all these things behind, today's Gia says that if you see Jimin and her husband are indebted to me because I was the one who introduced them to each other in the first place. I was the one who sent them on a blind date. When I was working in a company, I even gave them money so they could go on some nice dates. And I was the only person who convinced them to get married. If they think about how much they owe me for this, they can't say no. And thus, after convincing all the versions of herself and taking their consent, she comes to her sister's house. Thanks for watching and comment the best part of this video.